It may be an unpopular opinion, but it's a cold, hard fact that you need to accept. Your 9 to 5, your job, your livelihood, no matter what hours you work, is an entrepreneurial training ground and nobody's talking about it. Like every meeting that you're in, every project that you manage, every communication with your boss, those are all reps. Reps in communication, leadership, systems, execution, these exact same muscles that entrepreneurs, that business owners spent years trying to build. You're already training them every single day. And in this episode, I'm touching on that a little bit more. So with that being said, welcome to episode 30 of Everything Entrepreneurship with Jerome Carter. This is the place, the podcast. This is the home for ambitious employees, skilled professionals, my emerging executives, anybody that's chasing their dream in between meetings, after work, or before the sun rises. But I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to everybody that's been supporting. I love the feedback, the comments, the DMs. But hitting that subscribe button is the best thing you can do to not only show me that you appreciate the content, but so that other people can hear it and get this message as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, when I say that your 9 to 5 is an entrepreneurial goldmine, I mean that, right? And the main thing that I find, especially when I'm working one-on-one with people, is that they're wasting their time. Not the time before work, not the time after work. I'm talking about the time while they're working. And that throws people off. So let me back up a little bit. Most people work 9 to 5, right? They work 40 hours a week. That's time that's wasted if you're not putting effort into how you can proceed or how you can progress as an entrepreneur with your side hustler business. And I always, if you watched one of my past episodes, I always make a clear distinction. I'm not telling people while you're working, you need to directly work on your business, abuse the person's time that's paying you. No, I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying is that you can use your time while you're working to work on yourself, which benefits your side hustler business, so that you have the momentum when you get off work to actually follow through and work on that side hustler business, right? Because we find that we're drained, and I'm always talking about clarity, strategy, momentum, and it's built when you can identify the gold mine of your 9 to 5, right? Everybody nowadays has a framework. These specific things, this acronym is what you follow and how you can get the most out of it. I won't dive too deep into it now, but I will touch on it because no matter where you are, no matter what your job is, entry level or executive, everybody has these 5 different things that they can focus on a specific day of the week to help them while they're working for their side hustler business, right? Before I dive into that, when I say every single day I'm reading articles, I can't keep up with all of them, but there's so many articles that go out every single day talking about how either jobs are laying people off in mass, how jobs can't give raises, how jobs can't give the level of commission that they were once giving, how people that are searching for jobs, whether they're currently unemployed or at a specific job, how they can't find the job that they're looking for. And now there's a couple things that go into that. Most of the jobs that people are looking for are either asking for you to be super ultra qualified, even if the position at one time, a couple of years ago, might have been entry or mid-level. Nowadays, people are saying, I need 8 to 10 years of experience for this. And what you find is, and I've been struggling to put this into words, so this is a thought coming out of my mind in real time, right? If there are a large sum of people in the millions looking for a better job, looking to make more money, but a majority of the current jobs right now require a certain level or a certain threshold of experience, these people that were or have gone down the wrong path, the wrong degree, don't necessarily have that experience. They have work experience, but they don't have that specific experience. And when they try to get an entry level position to get that specific experience, the wage in which they're getting paid is much lower than what they can survive, let alone afford to live, right? Everything is getting more expensive. As I just said, companies are laying people off. And these are facts. These are not scare tactics. So whereas the whole landscape of entrepreneurism has evolved today compared to back when it first started, if you wanted to be an entrepreneur, if you wanted to start a business, you had to quit your job completely. Use your life savings and go all in for that. No, as I said before, By the end of this year, I believe 50% of Americans are going to have some sort of gig work, some sort of side hustle. So with that being said, how can we make sure we get the most out of these? How can we make sure that they're profitable? How can we make sure that we don't get shiny object syndrome, and once something gets a little bit too difficult, that we just pivot and go to something else, right? Well, that's what we're doing here in Everything Entrepreneurship. I'm trying to give you that clarity so you can not only understand the path that you need to go down, but how you can get the most out of where you are, right? And that's how we get into the job being a gold mine. While you are, and this is me now starting to get back to how you're wasting time. I guess when somebody thinks about wasting time, the first thing that comes to them is, dang, I could have done something else, but I didn't. And now that time is gone and I'm frustrated and I don't have the progress or what it is that I was going after, right? What I'm saying is you're dedicating your time, that 40 plus hours, sometimes 50 hours, sometimes 60 hours to somebody else, when you could be dedicating that same time towards yourself as well. People are, let's just say they're in cruise control. They go to work, they do the job, and they leave. But imagine if you were to go to work, get the most out of your job, progress yourself, and have the momentum and have the energy, regardless as if it's good outside, if it's bad outside, if it's sunny, if it's rainy, if you just had an argument with your spouse, whatever it might be, you're still getting the work done because you understand that's how it is, right? And I'm going to do my best to keep this episode precise, and I'm going to go over the 5 different things in my framework really quickly, so you can understand. It doesn't matter where you work, it doesn't matter how much you make, it doesn't matter how often you're there. If you work a job in any capacity, you have these 5 that you can tap into, right? And you won't waste time. You won't waste time if you focus on one of these at least every single day, right? And now, before I go into the 5, the most common pushback I get whenever I'm working with somebody one-on-one is, I don't like my job, right? It's one of 2 things. They either don't like their job, or they have these golden handcuffs on and they have too many things moving at once and they can't focus on bettering themselves and building momentum, right? So let's tackle the first one. I don't like my job. I don't get paid enough. My boss is too bossy. They micromanage me. That's the most common thing that I hear. That's the most common thing that you might be thinking right now yourself. Like, how am I supposed to go all in when I don't even like where I'm at? I'm not respected where I'm at, and I'm not making my worth where I'm at. So I don't want to go all in. I want to find something else. I want to make more money. I want, right? And that's understandable to an extent. But at the same time, you're there. At the same time, you show up. At the same time, the time is going to pass. So why not use that as efficiently as possible and go all in for yourself, right? That makes much more sense. You can wrap your mind around going all in for a job that you don't like if you understand and you can clearly see the direct correlation of what I'm doing here and how it's benefiting me as a person, how it's benefiting me professionally, how I'm building the momentum and I'm actually getting the work done regardless of what life is doing. And you don't think about that. People don't think about that, right? And then you have the other, then you have the other side. These are my people that are a little bit higher, maybe not necessarily emerging executives, but they're definitely an executive or C-level person. It's like, I'm so tied into this. I have so much accountability. I have so much responsibility at this job. I have teams under me, and I have to make sure that I'm managing these teams because the managers below me aren't doing an adequate job. How do I have time for myself? Golden handcuffs are typically when you're in such a good position, you make such a good amount of money that it's not about, it's nowhere near about living paycheck to paycheck, but everything is going too fast. You can't take a moment to pause and remove yourself because you've built up not only this money, not only this position, not only this skill, but you've also built up an expectation of a life that you need to sustain. And that if you do something that could jeopardize that, woof, don't even think about that. These are the conversations where, let's just say you're making $120,000 plus commission, right? 120 base plus commission, or just profit share, whatever it might be on top of that. You might take home a couple $1,000s at the end of the year, each quarter, whatever it might be. If you try telling your spouse, if you try telling your kids, hey, I'm going to try this little side hustle, they're like, you don't need the money. What are you talking about? And it might be something that you're passionate about. You know, too many people have lost themselves climbing the corporate ladder that they don't know who they are or what they want. All they know is how to follow directions and how to make somebody else's dream thrive. And when it comes time for them, they don't only not have the energy to put into it, but they don't know how to go all in for themselves, right? So when I say that you're wasting time, I'm saying you're clocking in 40 hours a week, sometimes more. How about if we tap into, even if it's 1 hour a day, even if it's 30 minutes a day, into one of these 5 pieces of the framework I'm about to go through? By doing that, you're conscious of not only becoming a better version of yourself, but it's also benefiting the company. And if it's benefiting the company, it's benefiting your position and your value. You already know you're not paid in proportion to how hard you work. You're paid in proportion to the amount of value you bring to a company. Like it's no more, no less. That's a hard truth. That's a straight up fact, right? So if that's the case, then you have to start thinking about, and this is when I put together these workshops. I was having a good conversation with one of the brokerage owners. Back then, a couple months ago, it started off entrepreneurship. I'm not going to tell them to quit their job, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to show them the inner entrepreneur in them, and I'm going to show them how they can, while they're working, get that side hustle or business off the ground. You might not be able to give them a bonus. You might not be able to give them a raise. You might not be able to do all the stuff that you promised the previous years. I got you. It had to go from entrepreneurship workshops to intrapreneurships. How can it benefit both you and the business so that the business is happy, you're happy, and you also have the skills to do something, sometimes ancillary to what you do, right? And that's another pod for another day, as they say, or as I say, right? So what are the 5 pieces of the framework, KJC? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm about to run through them real quick. I call it my SCOPE framework. You have to scope out your job. S.C.O.P.E. Right? And the S is for skill leverage. Your job, no matter if it is a specific thing, a marketing company. So let's just say that you are hired as a marketing specialist, marketing coordinator, director of marketing, marketing manager, any capacity. Marketing is the root. That's your skill. And as you go to your job, you can build upon that skill. You have things you can tap into and access to make that skill better. Whether it's just specific trainings that they have for when you first start, whether it's asking for them to pay for specific training under that umbrella of marketing, whether it's you just taking your own time to better yourself and pushing the envelope to somebody above you to figure out how you can learn more. Leveraging your skill is one of the easiest ways that you can not only make a side hustle or business, but you can tap into while you're working, right? For the person that doesn't have that direct correlation from their name, let's say you're just a customer service representative or you're just a general assistant manager, right? I always say like assistant manager because that's a broad sweep, and most people are or some people are in a managerial role, and there's different aspects or different skills within that you need to thrive, to do a good job, and to add value to the company, right? A good manager is going to be able to motivate. They're going to be able to delegate. Depending on if you're retail or if you're in an office, you might have to worry about loss prevention. You might have to worry about hiring. There's a long list of things that you need to do every single day, and every single one of those things is a skill. So if you were to show up each day and say, you know what, I'm going to do a little bit of research. I'm going to look up how I can be a better manager. And today's aspect is going to be just delegation. It's going to be LP. It's going to be operations. It's going to be just conveying the goal of the company or the mission statement of the company to all the people below me. By tapping into that, by going to work, understanding that you're going to go all in, not just for your overall job, but you're going to specifically focus on one part of that. You are working on yourself. You're building what you need so that when you get off work, you can then go into your side hustle. And I've seen it. I've not only lived this, anybody that I help or that I tell do this, I get messages back, oh my goodness, it worked. I don't know why it was. It's because you built the momentum. You weren't worried about motivation. Motivation is fleeting, but once you have momentum, you're in a better position. It's building the habit because it's easy to break many things, but not a habit, right? So that's the S. The next thing or the next letter is C for communication. Your job, unless you're just a mom and pop, and even then they put out money, Your job pays hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, to refine the exact messaging that they're going to use, internal and external, customer facing, or just to your peers. Whether an email goes out with these parameters, whether you have an advertising campaign that specifically conveys this to the consumer, whether you're sending out some sort of follow-up rewards system for your company, everything, every single word was paid for and thought of, right? And I'm not talking about just an email that your manager sends you with a typo. I'm talking about anything that your company puts out, they paid for, and words matter. Those words are in those sentences that are in that paragraph in that order for a reason. And when you look at your communications each day, if you were to come in on Monday and work on skill leverage, right? Leveraging your skill. And on Tuesday, you're going to come and look at communications. You're going to go through your day, you're going to go through your job, but you're going to hone in, you're going to realize, let's lock in and figure out every single like handout that I've gotten, every single email that I get from above, every single thing that we have, every script that we have for our clients, for our customers to sell something. Let me study that and figure out why it says that. You could take note of what stands out to you, and after work, you can look into it, or you can highlight what stands out to you and you can ask a supervisor, hey, why is it that in our script we say this or that? It might be above them. They might have to bump it up. You might have to reach out to somebody higher in the organization. If it's a small mom and pop business that you work for, hey, how'd you come to the conclusion of picking this script? Why don't we use something else? They might think that you're challenging it, don't want to use it, but at the same time, you could have a conversation. I'm just trying to have an understanding of why we're saying these things. When you have your own, when you get your own business off the ground, how you communicate to people matters. Whether it's a DM, whether it's an actual flyer that you make, whether it's an onboarding email or sequence, communication matters, and people don't understand how how much amazing communication they're sitting on. Regardless of if you like it or not, it's there for a reason. It was paid for, so you should study it, right? After O is operational awareness. One of the best things that a good entrepreneur business owner knows how to do is to bring something from start to finish. Finish what you start. And many times there are policy and procedures, there's standard operating procedures at your job that you have to follow or that people follow that ensure that a process starts, it gets through. If something bad happens, you do this. If something good happens, you do this. And then it ends. By understanding or just identifying the different SOPs, by identifying the different policies and procedures and how they start and how they end, and how that you can do that, how you can set that up for your company, your business, your side hustle, then you're going to thrive much better. Like, you have to understand the systems. And that's something that people overlook. If you, let's just say you're that, I'll just take these two examples. If you're in marketing and you know that you have to set up a campaign, you know what you need to do to start, you know what you need to do when you deliver it for it to end. And then when they pull the trigger, what needs to be done. If you're an assistant manager, you have to open up a store, you know the first thing you need to do when you get there and the last thing you need to do when you leave. And you also know if things go according to plan or if they don't go according to plan, how are you going to get this from start to finish? If you're doing reporting, you start the report, you end the report, everything in between. People don't think about these things when they apply it to their side hustle or business. Because if it's a side hustle, just some gig work, I'm just trying to make a little extra money. Like, I don't need all this stuff. It's better to know it and to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. But that's why you're here. That's why you're still listening. That's why you already hit the subscribe button, right? But yeah, you're doing this already. And by understanding this and applying it when it's needed for your business, for your company, for your business, it makes it so much easier for you when you do. And I'm not saying leave. You could get this thing off the ground. You could be making the same amount of money as you're making and just sustain it, because I'm never going to push you to say, hey, you got to leave your job. Hey, you got to quit. If you're not quitting your job, what are you doing? Use your job. Your job is using you. I used to say exploit the workplace. Exploit means derive full benefit from. I'm like a parrot. I say the same things because it takes the same things for you to get forward. If your job is using you, use your job ethically. Got to use it ethically. We don't do anything backhanded. But that's the O. P is people. Like, you have customers that you interact with. You have back office or corporate people that you interact with. You have your day-to-day peers that you interact with. And then you have your supervisors that you interact with. And then you also have like the owner Those are 5 different types of people that you can interact with, that you can leverage, that you can network with, that you can understand how they got to where they are, what they did do right, what they didn't do right, what they wish they knew, and so on. By understanding the value that you have being around people. And some people are introvert. I understand that. You don't have to be an extrovert just out, hey, everybody, this is me. I'm just being all happy. It's not about being happy. It's about understanding your proximity to these people. And that when you do start your thing, whether it's adjacent to what you already do or something completely different, you have this log of people that you can reach out to if need be to get a better level of understanding into something that they already know, to get your first sale, to get their opinion on stuff. Like understanding people and how you interact with them on a day-to-day basis matters. You have to think for the long term. So again, if you come in and you say, you know what, today's P, today's Thursday, I'm going to focus on people. When you have a meeting, think, how can I get to the meeting early and make one connection, right? Or how can I get a one-on-one meeting with my supervisor, maybe grab lunch with them and just shoot some questions off the top of my head for them. There's so many different things you can do to tap into the people, all right? And then E. E is for E-tax, entrepreneurship tax. If you're working a job, your employer likely takes taxes out. Uncle Sam doesn't do the same. So what I say is for each paycheck, and it doesn't matter if you're living paycheck to paycheck or if you got 20,000 liquid in the account, you need to put aside a certain amount of money each paycheck um, for your own entrepreneurial betterment, as well as saving for your actual side hustle or business. Um, I typically say if you're making underneath 65K, and by no means am I saying somebody at 65K right below is doing well. It's just a general rule of thumb. You might have some debt, and if you have some debt, you got to get it paid off, right? I'm not talking about good debt. I'm talking about bad debt. If you're making under 65,000, 5 to 10% of your paycheck needs to be put aside. If you don't have it, I know you don't have it. It's okay. You still need to do it. Put it aside, and at the end of every quarter, half of that goes towards paying off that debt in a lump sum, whatever you're able to accumulate, and the other half of that goes specifically towards investing in yourself, whether it be a course, whether it be a mentorship, whether it be something that's going to help you proceed forward to get the information you need for that side hustle or business. And if you're making over 65K, you're putting anywhere from 10 to 15% aside each paycheck, and you're just putting that aside. And at the end of the quarter, half of that's going to go towards your entrepreneurial betterment, and the other half is saved towards that side hustle or business overall, because you're going to end up needing capital no matter what you do. And obviously, you only get paid once every 2 weeks or once a month. So every Friday isn't about putting money aside, or every other Friday isn't about putting money aside. But Monday through Thursday, you can pick each one, the S for Monday, C for Tuesday, O for Wednesday, P for Thursday. And then if you got paid, E for Friday. And if you didn't get paid on that Friday, you pick the thing that you want to spend a little bit more time on, and you apply that to Friday. You go to work with a purpose. You go to work with a new excitement, because you know, I'm getting more out of this than it's getting from me, right? You're literally getting paid to be in proximity to progress. And people don't understand that. It's not a good tool. It's a gold mine for a reason. And in my employed entrepreneur masterclass, I go much more in depth, not only as to this framework in the 9 to 5, but the framework that I have, the reset ritual for your 5 to 9. And I put everything together, like completely everything. By the end, you have a whole strategy. I'm not trying to plug that or anything. I'm just saying. But it's a gold mine, and you can use it. You go there every day. You might as well tap into it, you know? I could spend a whole 30, 40, 50 minutes on each individual letter. And in some instances, on one-on-ones, I do if that's what they need. But I just wanted to touch on these. I wanted to show really briefly how you're sitting on what can prepare you for what you need while you're getting that business off the ground. And yeah, I'm trying to keep these episodes short. I've been recording for 28 minutes. After I edit it, I'm curious to see how long this is. But with that being said, if you're still here, I want to say thank you. I appreciate your investment in yourself. And I typically drop these on Monday, so I hope you have a good rest of your week. You know, only today matters. Don't worry about if yesterday went bad, and don't get too high on yourself if yesterday went perfectly. tomorrow isn't promised, but you have to focus on today. And the only thing you have to focus on doing today is your next best step. What's your next best step that you need to do, that you need to accomplish so you can get one step closer to your goal, right? Of a profitable side hustler business. But with that being said, this is Jerome Carter, Everything Entrepreneurship. I will see you guys in the next one.